Good day. We're going to talk a little bit today about an enhancement to the Adobe Digital Publishing Suite software for InDesign. If you're not familiar with that, this is some new panels and new tools to enhance InDesign for building app content for like iPads or Zoom tablets. So they use InDesign to build the magazine or the publication. Then we can actually add some interactive items to that. They're called overlays, where the user can swipe or tap and watch videos, look at slideshows, scroll text, scroll content. And there was a recent improvement or update to one of the panels in the overlay creator, and that's called Scrollable Frames. And I just want to give you a short demo of some things I've been doing with that. It's really easy to do, and it's really a lot of fun. To give you a little basis of what's going on here, I have an InDesign page, and I have a photograph of a old scrapbook I took, and it's in the background here. I have a frame here that you can see is filled with some text called "This is a container." And we normally wouldn't put any text in there, but I want you to understand that this is the container, or this is the holder of the content I'm going to put inside of it. And the content I'm going to put inside of it is some text. And over here on the left I have a frame also that says "This is content." So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the frame full of my text content, and I'm going to cut it from there, and I'm going to paste it into the frame on my page, because I want to use this as a scrollable story for the reader to read without taking up a lot of page space. The two frames are identical in width. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this first frame where it says "This is content." I'm going to right mouse click and I'm going to cut. Then I'm going to come over and I'm going to select this frame, and the key to this is to paste into. So we take the content and we paste it into the container, and I'm going to do that. So now that content is in there. If I put my mouse arrow over it, you can see that I get a content grabber, and I'm going to position the text in here so it starts at the top. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over, and in the overlay creator panel there's a new item they've added called Scrollable Frame, and this is fantastic. Up here it says scroll direction. So I'm going to select a direction to enable the reader to swipe or scroll this content. In this case, I'm going to do a vertical scroll. I'm going to leave the scroll indicators visible so you can see that, and I'm going to have the information start at the upper left of the content that I pasted in there. And I'm going to come down to the bottom here. I'm going to click on Preview. And this previews this document in the Adobe Content Viewer, which will simulate the way it's going to look, we'll say on a Zoom or an iPad tablet. So I'm going to click on this. And now the content creator is actually taking a kind of a snapshot of anything that's not interactive, or it's not an overlay. And what I mean by that is the actual photograph of the scrapbook back here is a static image. So what InDesign tools do is they take a screenshot of that, and then they overlay the interactive content. It actually floats above it. So now when I press in this, I can scroll this text up and down and read this story, and it doesn't occupy any more than this space. So I could have photographs of products or images down here, and I could talk about that and scroll through this story here. And you can see the scroll bar, the vertical scroll bar, kind of showing up here over on the left, on the right. And you can see as it moves. So this is really a great enhancement. Now, we could do that before in earlier versions, but it just wasn't this easy, and we didn't have as many options. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to kind of up the ante a little bit. I'm going to go to a different page in my document, So I'm going to go to Pages, and I'm going to come over here to page 2. Now I'm going to turn on some layers here because I have some items, and I have a layer here called Slideshow. So I'm going to turn this layer on, and it has a series of objects that you can see here, and the goal here is to take this image and put the text in this frame that describes maybe some of these pictures. I have the text already over here. So I'm just going to click on this. So this is my content. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to cut it. I'm going to click on this frame I built before. It's the same width. And I'm going to paste into this container. So that puts the scrollable text in there. And we had seen that before. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come down below here. I have a series of photographs that I've taken. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these photographs. I'm going to drag across them. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to group them together so they become one object. So I'm going to go up under the Object menu, and I'm going to come down to Group. So now what I can do, the cool thing is I'm going to cut this object, and I have a container frame here. This container frame I deliberately built the same size as one of my pictures. So I'm going to paste into this container. And now let's preview this. In fact, before we preview it, let's look at the scrollable frame options here. I'm going to turn on the scroll direction for this to go horizontal. I'm going to hide the little scroll indicator. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn on something called Use Document Position. And I'm going to come down and I'm going to click on the grabber hand. And you can see the outline of the group object right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reposition the content inside of this container. And I'm going to make it so my first picture shows up right there in the frame. And I'm going to let up. Now let's go ahead and preview this. So now we have two frames. We have a scrollable content frame and a picture. And here's the first page of my document. I'm going to press on it. I'm going to simulate the swipe to go to the next page. So here I have my information, we'll say, about this scrollable frame here. Now it doesn't appear to be scrolling. Now I wonder what we didn't do or what we did do to make that scroll. Let's see if the picture's scrolling. Yeah, works perfectly. So let's go back and see what difference between those two frames. Let's click on this container frame here and let's go over to scrollable frame. Oh, look there. We forgot, or I forgot, to turn on the scroll direction. So I'll set that at vertical. I will use the upper left of the story, and I'll leave the scroll contents on there. So let's see how this looks this time. And again, these are two overlay items over that scrapbook photograph. Let me roll up or swipe up to here. And now if I press in this scrollable frame where the story's at, I can scroll through this text information. And it has kind of an inertia feature in it, which is kind of neat. It kind of enhances the view of it here. And again, we're going to press on the slides over here. We press like a user would do and just kind of drag them around. They don't necessarily snap to that exact position, but I can drag around and look through these photos. That's awesome. So you could have, a product description over on the left, and then you could show the product shots over here on the right. Let's close out of here. Okay, now let's up the ante a little bit here, and let's go ahead And let's set up a scrollable frame with the text here. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put some images inside of this text, and I'm going to turn those images into buttons that will control the slideshow. So first I'm going to click on my content here of my slides, and I'm going to actually cut this from here. I'm going to paste it, and now I can work with it here. Now this is all one grouped object, so what I want to do is I want to actually put these into a stack, like a slideshow stack. So I'm going to ungroup them, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my alignment panel here, and I'm going to align them on their horizontal centers and also on their vertical centers. They're still all selected. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into what's called a multi-state object. So I can step through the different pictures because they're going to be in different quote-unquote states in this multi-state object. We go up here to object states, we come over to the corner, and I'm going to convert this selection into a multi-state object. And what that does, that takes every one of the objects, in this case the pictures, and puts them on a different state. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to close out of object states. Okay, so now I've got a multi-state object here. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to move this over, and I'm just going to put it up in this position here. Now I want to have some way to change the pictures when the person reads the story about the pictures over here. I'm going to have a little image of this camera that they can click on that's going to change to the appropriate image. So let's click on this contents, let's cut it from here, and let's paste it so we can put these little images of this camera in to act as buttons. So I'm going to click on this, I'm going to copy it. I'm going to double click here and get my blinking cursor. I'm going to paste, and I'm going to come down here and paste. And now I've pasted all those images, and now these are actually inline graphics in this text frame. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to go ahead and take this contents, I'm going to cut it, I'm going to click on this frame, I'm going to paste into. It just makes it a scrollable frame. Now here's the secret I'm going to do. I'm going to press on this and I'm going to pull it down here a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand the frame. So once it's in that container, I don't want to move it around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to enlarge the frame so I can see the contents. I'm going to click on this little camera icon a couple times, and I'm going to turn this into a button. I'm going to convert this object to a button. I'm going to have it have an action of going to a particular state in my multi-state object. So here it says object, multi-state, and I'm going to have it go to, let's say, state 5. I'm going to click on this camera here. I'm going to convert it to a button, and I'm going to have it go to a specific state. Let's have this go to state, how about 2? Let's click on this camera object. Let's convert it to a button. And I'm going to click the drop down. I'm going to go to the state I want this one to go to, and let's say state 4. Now I'm going to save, and I'm going to come back. I'm going to click on the container frame. I'm just going to move the container frame up here a little bit, and I might even adjust it here a little bit. Then we'll go ahead and I'm going to go and close my button panel. And of course, InDesign sees this as a scrollable frame. I'm going to do it in a vertical, and I'm going to use the upper left, and I'm going to keep the scroll bar there so the user or the reader can see it. So let's preview this and see how it works. Now the nice thing here is this is the first page. Remember, the background image is the scrapbook. The overlay is a scrollable text. We've seen that before. And we have our multi-state object over here. So if I'm reading along and I want to change an image, I can actually come and click on one of these images. That's awesome. So I actually can embed these inline graphics into this scrollable contents of a text frame, and then I can actually, once I have them into the container, I can actually program them as buttons to control this multi-state object, in this case these photographs, just by turning them into buttons and telling them to go to a specific state. This is incredible. In a little bit of space, I can show a lot of information, have some beautiful interactivity also. Let me close out of here. A little variation on the theme here. If I wanted to do a video, we'll say, let's go ahead and go to my layers panel. I'm going to hide my slideshow, and I'm going to turn on a little layer here I have for TV. And so quick like a bird, what we're going to do is we're going to take this image. This is a video clip I shot of some trumpeter swans. I'm going to scale it down a little bit here. I'm going to go Shift Controller, Shift Command, and I'm going to scroll it down so it's kind of just a little bit bigger than the opening on my LED TV screen here, graphic. Now, I can play this. I can turn on autoplay, and I can tap to show a controller. The user can do that when they go on the pad. Let's preview this, and we know that the video is going to play on top of the graphic of the TV, because that graphic of the TV is not an overlay. It's just a plain old something on the page, so it becomes a snapshot of the page, and then the video is going to play on top of it. So it takes a little bit longer for this to compile up because the video image is a little bit bigger than static images. And let's see how this works. So let's go to this page, and sure enough, it's playing the video here, and it is floating above my LED screen. Now what I want to do is I want to have the video appear to come from behind this LED frame as if it's playing on the TV. So let's do this. Let's close this. Let me take my video here. I'm going to move it over here just for a second. We need to trick the overlay creator. We're going to make the overlay creator think that the LED frame of the TV is actually a slideshow. So it converts it to an overlay item. So it's going to play it on top, and the video is going to play behind it. So first of all, I have to come over, and I'm going to convert this single image of this LED TV to a multi-state object. It automatically makes two states for me, even though there's one image. And then I'm going to come back over to my overlay creator panel, and it sees this multi-state object that can be used as a slideshow. So I'm going to turn on autoplay. I'm not going to do any cross-fading or anything like that. I just want it to trick it to make it think it's a slideshow. So now I'm going to put my video back over here, position it, and just for fun, let's look at the layers panel. You can see that the TV is on this layer here, and let's see, are we all set here? There's the background, here's the TV, here is the multi-state object here. So what I'm going to probably do is move this multi-state object above my movie. Alright, let's take a look and preview. So again, we have actually converted this single LED TV graphic into a slideshow. We turned it into a multi-state object. It automatically made me two states. I went to the overlay creator panel, and it sensed that it was something that could be used as a slideshow. So it turned that into an overlay object or an overlay item. So now it is not going to be embedded into the page. It's actually going to float above the background of the page, just like the video does. And here we go. So we'll scroll up, and there's my TV kicking in. Now if I wait and let that pull away, I actually can see, or it gives me the illusion that it's actually playing right within this graphic. So I can come up here and simulate tapping on this, and I can scrub, and I can pause, and so on, because I told it to have that controller if the user tapped. Play. There you go. So we kind of tricked InDesign to think the single image of the LED TV was a overlay item, so it actually made it float above the page. Alright, let's finish up on a couple more things I've done in experiments with the scrollable frames. Let's go over here to the pixel contest image here. This is just like we were kind of doing before, where we have a scrollable frame here. I've embedded the camera images here. If the viewer clicks on the camera, it will show the images up in here on the back of this camera. So let's go ahead and preview this. So now once it compiles this page, I can scroll. I can click on this and it changes the images. And remember, that was a multi-state object of a bunch of different photographs. And a little addition to this one is I actually added in that stack of images for this example that video clip. Because most digital cameras now shoot video, I thought it'd be appropriate to do that. One more little secret thing that we did. I don't know if you can see it here, but I have a little bitty of a URL here. And let's see if we click on that. Here it comes. So this is another part of the overlay creator panel where I can actually put a web link inside of that multi-state object and have the viewer click and go to that URL. This is just fantastic. Close out of here. And now I'm back to my page again. That's just really exciting stuff. Let's close out of here. And the nice thing for me, this is all being done without any programming. It's a matter of kind of planning things out and seeing what's capable. Last one I'll show you up here is a little item that I would put in about an article on, we'll say, wind turbines. So here we have a background of an image of some wind turbines, and I've got a little scrollable frame here of some text about this, and over here I have this big scrollable object in a frame, and what it does, it actually has some information about what states have the most capacity installed in the United States for wind turbines. You can see this weird little post here. It kind of looks like the post holding the wind turbines back here. I'm going to undo that in case I moved it, and let's go ahead and preview it. So now what you're going to see here is we'll see our scrollable frame become active so we could read about this particular item, and then we're going to have this scrollable frame on the right that's going to contain actual textual information also, and a little surprise here also. And it takes a second for this to kick in. So here's my scrollable information, and there's my little surprise. Here's a series of this blade animation. These blades I drew these in Illustrator. I brought them into Photoshop and I just rotated them in different, 3 or 4 different positions, and turned them into what was called a image sequence. Image sequence just plays through these individual images, and that's another overlay. And so now it's done playing here. What we could do is I can also pull this up and show this scrollable frame here. So this is just another way to show scrollable frames, a little bit of an image sequence animation using maybe some Illustrator artwork brought into Photoshop, turned into a image sequence, and I'll do a podcast on that so you can find out how to do that too. Here's just using some techniques from InDesign where the text frame here has been filled, but the color of the fill of the frame, the opacity's been brought down from that so you can see it. It just makes for a very, very attractive little information area. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. Go ahead, think about how you can use these scrollable frames, for your next app that you're going to put on a tablet.